I'm Chris Fox, and let's talk content. Let's talk about content's role in business. Content marketing is really more than just marketing. Marketing, I would argue, is more than just marketing. There's a reason that it used to be sales and now it's marketing, because it's far more than just getting a product into a customer's hands. These days it's more about what the brand is, and content is vital to that. Content creates what the brand's identity is, and in essence, what a brand is. To understand more about this brand identity, let's talk about a specific brand that really kind of launched into the content world recently. Wild Turkey is a company that distills bourbon and whiskey, and recently they brought on Matthew McConaughey. Now I think his title is something like artistic director or something like that, but really what it comes down to is Matthew McConaughey has helped them develop an identity. It's created an image that is associated with the brand that Wild Turkey is. This is what content does, and this is exactly what he is doing for their organization. It started out with commercials and things like that, but it's really perpetuated throughout their entire brand, and you can see it in their blogs, in their website, in their social media. It's everywhere. Now, if you're talking to people in the world of content marketing, the kind of old adage for a while has been just start creating. And really, part of that is because a lot of brands didn't have a blog or a social media profile or just some sort of identity for their company. That's an issue because your company is what you're selling to your customers. You're not selling a product, you're selling your organization. These days, it's more important to create high quality content than it is to just create content in general. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't just start creating today. In fact, you should if you haven't already. If you're trying to develop a business, whether you're small or you're a giant corporation, content is vital to making a representative of what your company is to the world. But what's more important now than ever with Google, with social media, with just general word of mouth being an epic version of what marketing is, creating quality content is essential to making sure that your brand is recognized the way you want it to be recognized. That's part of the challenge with the way content works these days, because really a content strategist isn't just developing blogs. A content strategist is developing SEO strategies, they're developing landing pages, they're developing ad copy, they're also developing blogs, they're also developing YouTube videos, and with all of that, they're also a social media marketer. All of these things are intertwined because it's all part of this whole brand identity. Part of the challenge that brands have trying to develop consistent, high-quality content is that they run into an issue where they think that their brand just isn't creating something that's worth seeing. And I'll use, for example, Red Bull. They are an amazing example because you're talking about an energy drink. But almost none of their content has people actually drinking Red Bull. What they're doing is they're connecting their brand with a specific persona that's out there, and then they sell to that persona. They're marketing to people who are into extreme sports and being physically active and out in the world experiencing Mother Nature to its fullest, but at an extreme level. They're always wearing helmets and they're on ramps or they're jumping off of cliffs. And what that does is that creates a brand identity that Red Bull attaches itself to. What this all comes down to is that even if you don't think that your brand has content to provide, I guarantee you it does somewhere. If you don't know what kind of content your brand might have to provide, look to your customers. Look to them and see what type of people they are, and identify that as a persona and chase that down. Because see, here's the thing. Just because a subject matter may seem boring to a number of people, that doesn't mean it's boring to your audience. And that's probably the most important element. There's a lot of little details that you can pull out of stories that you have with customers that are doing who knows what with your product, even if it isn't something that your product is meant for. But what it does is it spurs inspiration and spurs ideas from your potential customers as well as your current customers. That drives return sales as well as new sales. Arguably the most important part of content these days is that it connects your customers and your potential customers with your company. And I'm not talking about blogs that say, oh, this is what we're up to, or blogs that say, hey, meet our engineers, or hey, you should, meet Joe in shipping, or whoever it might be. Those aren't helping people understand your company, and they're not going to get read. The really important thing is that people understand what your company is and what you're trying to do. The most valuable content out there is education content. The power of educating your audience ties into what product you're trying to sell. Educating your audience as to the peripheral relations that your product has to the marketplace, or even more so, how to even use your product depending on what industry you're in, is what content is all about. And what that does is it develops a really robust and interactive community. That community then creates content of its own, and I guess you can kind of see how this spreads from there, that the more high quality content you can create as a business, the better the content that your audience is going to create, and then tier after tier, more and more people are not only going to see and hear about you, but it also gives you some more clout in the industry. So that's it. If you like what you've seen, hit the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and hit that little bell because that'll give you notifications when I'm coming out with new videos. And if you have a few minutes, stop by thechrisfox.com. That's where I'm doing some of my content development strategy and offer support for companies that are looking to create some really interesting content. Educating your audience on what is peripherally tied to your educating your audience onto educating